This is Prabhat here again. In our last session, we when we were developing, we were trying to do a live debugging of our services running in the Kubernetes cluster, and we were able to debug our review service using Telepresence. And this time, we wanted to uh, debug our person service. So essentially, this is what we would be doing. So this is what we did last time. We have a review service which calls person service, and while we're developing review service, we can test it locally, which will point to the person service. Uh, the goal of this session is that we're developing person service and we want to debug and work on it locally. And if somebody hits, or when we hit this particular review service, it should, instead of pointing to this particular the pods of this particular service, it should point to this particular process that is running on my laptop. So the way to do it is do a deployment swap, okay, and we'll see how to do that. But I, uh, let's take a look at what we have for that. I've got these deployments, four deployments, and one pod corresponding to each deployment. What we are essentially interested in is person deployment, okay, and the person pod and the person service. What we need to do is that replace this particular pod, okay, and any traffic that comes to this pod should be redirected to our local machine. Yeah, and let's take a look on what port is this running. No, so our person app source code, the service that runs on port 8080, and this is we are also exposing on port 8080 here. So let's go ahead and do a deployment swap. So all we need to do here is run telepresence minus swap deployment person. Okay, this is what want to deploy. Sorry, swap. As simple as that. And what we'll do is that whatever under this deployment, whatever port is exposed here, it'll expose the same port locally. Of course, you can go ahead and change that, and you have the flexibility to change that. But in general, I would simply go ahead and run just this command, telepresence swap deployment, and whatever the deployment that I have. And make sure that your service name and the deployment name is same. Let's give it a minute, and it would have done whatever it wants to do, which is swap deployment, and we'll quickly verify that once it is done and see what we have. So forwarding remote port 8080 to local port 8080. This is essentially what we are looking at. So anything that comes to this particular pod, I mean, technically that was targeted for this particular pod on port 8080, that'll get routed to local port 8080. So let's wait for this to finish and get set up. Well done, proceed. Okay, come on, we're almost there. Cool. Now, while we're here, okay, let's we can actually debug it in the standard fashion. Let's do that. Let's go here. Okay, let's debug this particular application. We have not put any breakpoints, which means that it'll run. There won't be any breakpoints. There won't be any breaks. We'll just wait for it to start. Just give it a minute. Okay, listening on and serving on port 8080. And see, we have got Prabhachana version V2 as the output. Okay, so and let's also take a look at what exactly happened here. kubectl get deploy prod svc. So that's wrong. Deploy prod svc. Okay, so you see our original deployment, a person, there are no pods running. Okay, the count of pods has been set to 0 and a new person deployment has been created and it has one pod. And essentially this particular service, now it points to this particular pod, which is essentially proxy and routes all the requests to anything that we are running locally. So let's take a look at the review. Okay. See, so we are able to see Prabhat Sharma V2, which is coming from our this particular service. See, we have got a request. In fact, if you want to just make sure that you're able to do this, we'll stop the debugging session. We'll make it V3 and let's run this again. So guys, we'll just wait for here and the next time so just to make sure what we saw here happening as this, when you call this particular service, review service, instead of calling this particular pod, it calls this one. So we have this running now, and hopefully when we run this, it should show us as V3. Let's refresh this one. So earlier it was V2, and now we have V3. So cool, guys. That is all that I had for this particular session. Telepresence offers a lot more features, but this should get you going pretty quickly. And let me know how it goes. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.